Everybody. In the following video, we are going to be taking a look at awarding the awardable through the concept of lawn care. In particular, we're going to be talking about product fitness and why people choose the products that they do. In particular, why are people swayed by what other people also awarded as a social species, for example. If you want to see the text version of this, you can sign up for the newsletter and look in the description below, and it should be there. And be sure to subscribe and have a good day. Okay. So today we are going to be talking about the lovely concept of risk taking. Speaking of risk taking, this is my first time using Arc Easel as my video assistant. I usually use Obsidian or Obsidian Canvas, but Arc is a really great piece of software and I'm excited to use it a lot more. So I figured may as well start now by using it to show off the easel feature. So for risk taking, what I wanted to highlight is that, I think that there is specifically a trend that happens when something becomes popular that people unintentionally snuff out things that aren't popular. It's kind of like the second or third page of Amazon fallacy, where the things that are on the first page get all of the attention and starve the other items of attention. And you can say the same thing about Google searches, or you can say the same thing about some parents with their children, is that when people choose a favorite, they tend to want to stay with that favorite. Particularly, we're going to be talking about this book called The Formula by Albert Laszlo Barabasi, which is the science behind why people succeed or fail. So this first quote that we're taking a look at here says that humans are inherently leery of risk. We are therefore always on the lookout for some previous endorsement or indicator that we will have something that is good, right? We want to award the awardable. And I think that this concept is pretty interesting, right? Basically what it's implying is that when something is a winner, it's more likely to continue winning. It's more likely to continue to accrete gains because it was popular before, so it must be popular for a reason. And as a heuristic model, this does work pretty well. People do have a tendency to notice some things that are of quality and want to share those things of quality with other people, either through word of mouth or through giving it a like or a 5 stars or some other signal that people are viewing it. But I do want to argue with this video that I think that some things that are awardable get misconstrued and that there are other signals at play that we don't pay enough attention to that actually dilute the value of something that is supposed to be awarded by its fitness. So here's the second quote. Kickstarter. Kickstarter has many failed projects that represent genuine effort and net worth. And instead of endorsing unknowns or the underdogs, we often choose the superstars in our networks. You can think of this also on like Twitter, for example, where you're more likely to believe someone with more followers than someone with less followers, even if they're saying something that you don't necessarily agree with. The social pressure, the social proof of what they're saying is almost too powerful to ignore, right? So the mechanism behind wealth inequality and unbounded success is called preferential attachment. Preferential attachment is basically when you get attached to something, you continue to stay attached to that thing. You begin a magnetic kind of pull towards this item, person, or thing, or idea. To even the playing field, we need to find new ways of recognizing, acknowledging, and championing talent early to set the snowball of achievement in motion. If we want our kids to succeed academically, then it's vital to show them how ubiquitous preferential attachment is. This is kind of like if you were in 3rd grade and you got selected to join one of the honor classes, you're more likely later in your high school career to believe that you're intelligent and act as such. So let's keep those two quotes in mind. We have this preferential attachment that makes us want to award the awardable, and this preferential attachment is the mechanism behind wealth inequality and unbounded success. So now we're going to talk about fitness. In short, the fitness of a product or an item is how well it actually performs against reality. This is very common with programming, for example. There's a very obvious fitness between one program to another, depending on how well it runs, but then there's a lot of social fitness as well that's applied on top of how popular something gets, right? Networking effects is kind of something like that. It's kind of in the middle because there is a thing called Metcalfe's law, which dictates that a network becomes more valuable the more nodes that you have in the network at like pretty much a square. But also it's social because it's not really truly necessarily the most fit thing. There's been a lot of bad ideas that have moved their way through history and have continued to stuck around just because people try and make sure that they stick around. So there's a researcher that worked in this book and was looking at kind of like an item's true fitness. So basically what they did is that they took a bunch of songs and then they put a bunch of teenagers in a room and they jumbled up the numbers of downloads and likes and things like that. And the teenagers had to look at that and listen to them. And if they liked the song, they can download it onto their phone. So a lot of the teenagers obviously were very heavily swayed by what they saw on the screen. It's like, oh, well, I guess other kids like this song. And keep in mind, he actually almost reversed the list entirely. So the worst rated songs in actuality became the top rated songs and vice versa. But let's see how that actually turned out. So his findings are deeply counterintuitive. The more ratings a product had, the more its final rating differed from its true fitness. You'd think that as a new person offers an evaluation, he or she would balance out the angry voices and the overly paid ones, pushing us closer to an average response. You know the game where kids are asked to guess how many M&Ms are in a jar? The more people we ask, the closer we get to the number. But only if you don't tell the kids what the others guessed. And this is really important, right? Because humans are social animals at the core of it. So we take strong signal to what other people are doing and have kind of mimetic responses to how people are reacting to things. The same is true on Amazon. The more that people weigh in on ratings, the less that the result will reflect the true fitness of the product. I know this is true. I've ordered some really shitty stuff on Amazon that has 5 stars, and I've ordered some stuff. Actually, this is funny. I don't think I've ever ordered anything on Amazon less than 3 stars. So it's the 5, 4, 3 stars basically become 1 to 5 stars. But it's social influence all over again. You bought that coffee maker and you have your reservations. If you're fair, it's a 3-star machine. You sit down to write your review and you see only 5 stars before you. So you decide, okay, well, maybe it's 4 stars. In an odd way, on Amazon, the consensus is irrelevant. Often it's the first reviews, unaffected by peers, that best capture a product's true fitness. So this is kind of the idea that I wanted to address here with this video. We kind of set up a framework here where we understand that other people can cause us to award things that don't necessarily need to be rewarded, and vice versa, that there are some things that we ignore because they aren't as socially popular or don't have the preferential attachment already built into it yet. So one thing that I want to address with this video is, can we use GPT to help us evaluate the fitness of something and generate a fair argument that allows us to decide whether or not we actually like something? So yeah, another new thing for this video, we are going to be in the web version of ChatGPT as opposed to the Obsidian version, which is also new for me. So we're actually going to go to the browsing alpha because that can pull real product data. And let's say that we're looking for something like, not something too expensive, but not something too cheap either. So we're looking for a new rake for our lawn. I'm in the market for a new rake to pick up leaves on my front lawn. I want to spend less than, let's say, $40. I don't really know the price of a rake, but more than 20. I want a rake that is resistant to rust, feels like good material, and isn't fancy. So let's go over the reasons that I said these things. So like, I want to spend less than 40, but more than 20. I want to narrow the space because I feel like 20 would be a really cheap rake and you don't want a really cheap rake. Again, I don't actually know how much rakes cost, so this actually might not return that many results. I want something that's resistant to rust. I feel like if it's like sitting in your garage a bunch throughout the year, you would want a rake that doesn't rust or gets old. You know, it feels like good material. This is something that's test the fitness of a product, right? In the way that we were just describing the awardable thing, and isn't fancy. So let's say that let's send this to ChatGPT and see what it says. So right now it's browsing the web, searching a rust resistant rake under $40, reading this website that has the top best rakes for 2022, and now it's loading them in. So we have the Craftsman Lawn and Rake, which is a fiberglass handle with a rake head bolted to it, 15-year warranty for $25 at Lowe's. The Amex Steel Leaf Rake for $48 on Home Depot or $54 on Amazon, and we can actually just click it and it'll take us directly to this article where we can see these rakes as well, and yada yada yada. Now what I want to do is I want to take this same query, open up a new one, and then I want a rake that has 5-star review for more than 100 reviews or something like that, right? So this is now we're actually trying to force the point here. So we can actually say most importantly. So now it's browsing the web for the 5-star reviews. This is actually the same website, I think, or no, it's not. This is actually a different website. Okay, so let's say that, for example, let's kind of think about this, right? So these two rake recommendations are similar, right? We can see one that comes back up twice. This Ames 26-inch Ames steel leaf rake. I cannot say these names. Steel leaf rake. However, you can see that there's a kind of optionality that happens here, right? Like, as opposed to kind of just seeing what other people have said in front of you, GPT is pulling from one article. So let's say, like, for example, that we actually wanted to pull from other articles as well. So source a few more articles for research what makes for a good raking experience. What does make for a good raking experience? Okay, so now it's talking about the tine material, the handle material. So the nice part about these models is that we found data that we would have found through a Google search, right? And then in addition, we're now looking at a number of different things that qualify as rake fitness, which is like, how fit is our rake against other rakes? I wonder if these are real. These might not be real because it doesn't look like it's browsing for this. Let's stop generating. We don't really need more. Oh no, so this is a real website. The best rakes for pine needles of 2023. So now let's say that we have a very specific thing. So let's say that, okay, I tend to get splinters a lot and my driveway is really long and I have oak trees surrounding it. So I have a lot of acorns. Which rake is best and why? So this is now, again, like kind of narrowing the fitness to something that's going to be more specific to an individual, which is really what's great about these large language models, right? Is that it's like, okay, well, let's think about a durable clog resistant head and a comfortable splinter free handle. So let's see what it says for the handle. I'm imagining that the handle would have to be kind of like metal or rubber or something like that instead of wood. Because I actually have personal experience from this where I think I had like a wood snow shovel or a wood rake. And when I was using it, I would get all these splinters in my hand as a kid. So this is interesting. So it chose from the list that we have above, which is 4 rakes, it shows 2 that says that we have large alternating set of tines, which makes it less prone to clogging, which is good for acorns. The thin tines might snap off, but it also has a rubber coated handle. Okay, so this is interesting. So it actually comes up with a why, right? So this is something that you wouldn't get from an Amazon review without kind of just digging through 50 reviews and hoping that they're not written by bots. Is that the clog resistant design is ideal for dealing with acorns and the rubber coated handle helps prevent splinters. And then for this one, the durable plastic head is suitable for raking acorns, and the metal handle with a plastic grip reduces the risk of splinters. So let's do one more final thing. Now that we're kind of like used the browsing to find some best rakes, and then we narrowed it down to something for ourselves, I turned this into a table. And so now I'm telling it to turn it into a tabular format, which is going to be easier to read. So now we can see it writing the table so you can kind of compare them one for one. So yeah, that's kind of where we're going to leave this at. He basically took this idea of saying like, oh, hey, like when you have something that has a 5-star review on Amazon, you're more likely to pick it. And what is that kind of mental framework that makes us do that? Why do we award the awardable? Then we started talking about how preferential attachment, we get attached to something and then we continue to stay attached to it, and how that continues to allow us to not really kind of help out underdogs on different products websites. And then we started kind of talking about fitness and how fitness, especially for products when it comes to purchasing decisions, is actually more of a personal decision. We then took GPT and then were able to have it find a website that has some best rakes of 2023, which is going to be awarding the awardable. So this is something that's pretty interesting, right? Is that we didn't find the 10 newest rakes on the market. We had it turned the 10 best rakes on the market from this website that had a high SEO. But at least from there, we were able to narrow it down into something for ourselves and kind of get a tabular format of what we were looking for. So I think that's pretty good. I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you for watching. If you want to see the text description of this, it'll probably be in the description below. Have a good one.